Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the February 1st, 2022 Post Falls City Council meeting. Clerk will note the council members are present with the exceptions of Mr. Walker and Mr. Malloy, who are both excused. I don't believe we have any announcements tonight. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are. We added a mediation authorization after the executive session, so we need to have that added to the agenda. It was published and put out online, but it was added after the Friday agenda went out.
This would be a motion to add that to the agenda.
I would move to add the mediation authorization to the agenda.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson?
Aye.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. You know, it's really strange to only have 4 council people. It's been many years since we went to 6, so it's kind of like the good old days. Under declarations of conflicts, ex parte communications, when the under unfinished business action item A, North Shore District subdivision and PUD request for reconsideration came forward, I recused myself from that, and I will do so again tonight. Anybody else? We do have one public hearing. Anybody wishing to testify, there are forms on the dais. Please fill them out, turn them into Shannon, our clerk, and we will let you speak. Shelley, would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the January 4th, 2022 City Council meeting. Item B is payables January 11th through January 24th, 2022. Item C is cash and investment balances for December 2021. Item D is North Mill 1 subdivision construction improvement agreement addendum sidewalk cash out at 4th and Saltese. Item E is Past Review Estates subdivision construction improvement agreement. Item F is North Mill 1 subdivision plat application. And item G is utility easements from North Mill 1 subdivision.
Any questions on the consent calendar?
I would move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We are now at the time for public hearings. We do have one item tonight, and it's the Angel Clark zone change, RZNE. And with that, I will open the public hearing. Mr. Manley.
Good evening, Mayor Jacobson, Council President Thorson, and members of City Council. John Manley, Planning Manager here at the City of Post Falls, presenting the Angel Clark zone change. That's file number RZNE 10/2021. Yep.
Excuse me. Hearing? Is that what you're asking? Do you have any more volume? See if that helps.
And I'll try to speak a little louder as well. So the applicant is Rob Clark. The owner is Angel Clark Properties, LLC. The requested action is to rezone approximately 4.2 acres that's currently in the City of Post Falls from the current single-family R1 zoning designation to the Community Commercial Mix CCM zoning district. This does require a development agreement, and that's attached to Exhibit S7 in the staff report. A little bit of history to go over before we go into the zone change criteria. This golf course area, which a lot of us are familiar with, did have a annexation agreement, Exhibit A12. In that exhibit, item 9.1, section 9.1, you can see here that the owner agreed that approximately 5 acres of the golf course, where the clubhouse and the parking for the clubhouse, they paid a commercial annexation fee rather than residential annexation fee. So there was an area around the clubhouse identified as commercial in use. They also pointed to requiring a special use permit upon development. And in that special use permit in Exhibit S4, you can see here they entertained some uses at that time. Back in the the 90s into 2000. You have the applicant, they have a clubhouse, a pro shop, a snack bar service, restrooms, and other offices, and they entertained beer and wine sales as a possibility. This request, being a zone change, more or less is behaving similar to a special use permit amendment, except for to do this, they're using the container of the community commercial mixed zoning ask and limiting the proposed uses as you see here from 3.11 in the development agreement to 3.11. And there's that spectrum or variety of uses per se there that they're asking for. In particular, the hotel use, you can see that on December 14th, the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to caveat that hotel proposal to being a max in that building of 2 stories and the occupancy of the extended stay units to be less than 1 month. And that was that forwarded recommendation. They recommended approval of zone change, but a caveat of adding those to that development agreement. The signed development agreement you have does not have this, so depending on how tonight's discussion goes, then those comments would be added to that development agreement if it was deemed being approved. So now going into more of the project itself and the location. Here you see the proposal is on the east side of Spokane Street. There's Grange, so it's just east of that intersection of Grange and Spokane, highlighted there in the red hatch, where the existing golf and clubhouse is. Kind of already mentioned what's currently there. There's no significant topology or vegetation matters that would inhibit redevelopment of this site, and there is the established golf course there. The water and sewer would both be provided by the City of Post Falls. This brings us to the zone change criteria and looking at proposals. First one looking at, is the amendment of the zoning map in accordance with the comprehensive plan's land use map? The next one goes into the comprehensive plan as well, but looks into the goals and policies. And in the staff report, there's a lot of commentary on items that may or may not be consistent with that comprehensive plan. And then the last one, here of the first 3 of the 6, looks at the existing development, street classifications, traffic patterns, future land uses, and looks at compatibility of that. The reason why these are kind of bulked up is the next slides will kind of thematically kind of tie into these criteria sets. So looking at the surrounding zoning of the area, what you see in the yellow, that's your typical single-family R1 zoning for lots generally above 6,500 square feet. And in the brown there, you have a residential mobile home park that has platted lots with single-family homes on those. So it's just adjacent to those uses, surrounded by the golf course and a cemetery just to the south. Future land use there you see is the low-density residential. So looking at the compatibility with it, you'd look at the comp plan and what are the tenants stated within it. Obviously in the low density, it looks as supporting your single family. Here it's up to 8 dwelling units per acre, but it also goes into additional uses. And the reason for these additional uses is no matter how you set up a comp plan, there's always areas that may need to be tweaked. And that's why we have some of these additional uses stated as well as the to be mentioned focus areas. So you look at here the additional uses, you're looking at patterns blending commercial and residential, could be considered, but you'd be looking at that focus area and looking at the traffic patterns of that area. So the focus area for this location, you can see here in the brown, all the land here cited is the Central Prairie, and we're on Spokane Street right here, so just east. And that red, that's the location of the project. And Spokane Street right here, so just east. And that red, that's the location of the project. And there's the surrounding built environment. So it states, and what most pertinent to this is it's looking at focus provisions for commercial uses along arterial collector streets where traffic exceeds 4,000 vehicles per day. In the staff report, you see that currently where we don't meet that 4,000, we're at under 3,000, but it is projected, and that's why it's a major collector designation of being under 5,000 trips per day by 2035. The other elements are pertaining to other areas within that Central Prairie. So looking at the commercial and high-density residential zoning element, the other criteria sets, the last three, it says commercial and high-density residential zoning is typically assigned along streets with higher road classifications. And here you see that a major collector is classified between 4,000 and 12,000 trips per day. So it's kind of not quite there yet, but it is projected there. The next criteria looks at, that's the fifth criteria, limited or neighborhood commercial and low-density residential is typically assigned on property as they proceed further away. And staff acknowledges in the staff report this isn't necessarily near an urban activity area. Sixth criteria deals with industrial zoning, and this site isn't asking that, so it's really not applicable. Here's the agencies that were notified of the proposal. We did receive a comment at the P&Z time from the Post Falls Police. They remain neutral. And then as part of the City Council notice, we did get Post Falls Highway District as no comment, Kootenai County Fire as being neutral, and DEQ had no environmental impact at this stage of development. This kind of wraps up staff's intro of the project. Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Manley?
You did a great job.
All right, thank you.
Applicant wish to speak? Does the applicant wish to speak? Yes. And we've got a timer going, so please keep your eye on that. Name for the record, please.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Do you want the this one?
Can you
up?
hear okay? Was that volume adjustment okay in the back?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the one.
I think we're max, but yeah.
How do I work this? How do I get the fancy one like you?
Well, if it was a PowerPoint, so here, you'd have to do is just kind of use the mouse.
I'll just scroll up and down.
Scroll down, and that'll get you to where you
Okay.
need to go.
Okay, perfect. There. Thank you. Mayor Jacobson, President Thorson, and council, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name's Rob Clark. Just a little intro. I grew up in Cheney, Washington, moved to Coeur d'Alene in '98, and ever since I've moved here, I've been involved in residential, commercial projects, businesses, and so forth. I'm very vested in Kootenai County and especially in Post Falls. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here speaking on behalf of the golf course and the vision that I and my wife and our family have for this community and the golf course. First and foremost, what I want to speak about is sustainability. In the last 22, 23 years, the golf course has been in the black 2 years. And when I say in the black, maybe $40,000, $50,000 profit that year. The other 20 plus years has been a lost loser. There have been 9 different owners that have come in and bought this property in the last 22 years. So why would I look at the golf course and decide what would make me a person that could make the golf course a profitable, sustainable product, but these other 9 people couldn't? Call it timing, call it strategy, I don't know. I do know that with my past experience and with projects that I've done, I have a different vision and a different drive to make something successful and make it something that the city of Post Falls, the residents of Post Falls, and the other business owners would be proud of. With us being in North Idaho, obviously we know what our weather is like. The golf course closes on the average 95 to 105 days a year. With that being said, you still have staff that you're still taking care of. You still have all the other utilities that you have to take on. So there's a lot of reasons why we need to do this development so that the golf course can be sustainable. I'll go through the pictures so that you guys can understand what the layout is. You can see right here is the current clubhouse. I think 15 or 20 years ago, they put that triple wide in and said, hey, we're going to build a new clubhouse. This is just temporary. Well, it's time to build a new clubhouse. The new clubhouse is a 21,000 square foot footprint with a second story above it. This would house everything that we need to do to make this golf course sustainable. Currently, here's our new maintenance shop. It's about 2 years old. And then we'll also be building a new covered cart storage, because next year we'll end up getting new carts that'll be all electric. As we pull into the floor plans, kind of the floor layout, as you can see over here on the east side, this would be the new entry going into the restaurant / clubhouse. So we'll have restaurant dining here, retail for the clubhouse, more dining over here. This will be the bar, kitchen, and then we'll have 6 bays for virtual golf. So obviously when we are in the middle of winter and there's snow on the ground and things, we could still create some revenue. These 4 suites here we would lease out. The idea is that like a convenience store, mini mart would be right here. This here would be like a little clothing boutique or something. This bay here would probably be like a Anytime Fitness, some type of gym. And then over here would be like a full service salon, day spa, things like that. So on the second story, and the second story is 17 hotel rooms. And that's exactly what they are. They're hotel rooms. They're not long-term. These will be, as I've done my due diligence and my studies, having long-term does not sustain this project. Having these as hotel rooms, it does. Even at a 40% occupancy rate, it still sustains. Here's another look at kind of an overview from up above, looking at this, how this would all lay out. Very well thought out as far as flow. So let me get to some of the pictures here. This picture here, as you can see, the new commercial building is just probably, I would say, 7 feet taller than the maintenance building that's there. So it doesn't tower over the building. This is a view heading north on Spokane Street. This one here. So this spot here is going to be the employees / residents or patrons of the hotel. This is where they would come in and they would park. This is looking back towards the south at the building from Spokane Street. Again, this would be like a mini mart, little grocery store, the little clothing boutique, just your shopping that not just people that are coming here would enjoy, but even the residents that live locally. There's just another view there. And what I want to talk about here, sorry about that, is as you can see right here, kind of the same concept that we did with the Sawmill Grill, where we pushed that building close to Spokane Street so that people that are walking by, it's an invitation to them. Come on in, come be a part of this building. It's not something that, I mean, a person that's walking up and down the sidewalk can just take 10 steps and they're in the grocery store, or they're, 100 steps and they're down there at the restaurant. So we wanted to bring this building out so that it's part of the community. Walking distance. It's something that people will walk to. We don't have to drive everywhere. The restaurant, just some things that, well, let me back up a little bit. Last planning and zoning, there was a complaint about lighting. I think that was the only comment that they said that the lighting was going to be an issue. I guess we got a couple lights on our building that shine into the back of their house. I don't know how it does because they're mostly shooting down. But nevertheless, I addressed that with those folks, and I said, what we're designing is we're designing something so that when there are people staying in the hotel rooms, when they're up here in these hotel rooms staying, you don't want this light shining up into their room. So if you could see, what we've got is we've got these lower sidewalk lights that actually, they're down lighting, so they shoot down. They're just good looking, and they work great. But what they do is they keep the light down instead of shining up and interfering with people's views. So, new entrance into the clubhouse restaurant. Plenty of outdoor, patio seating. All these, like we did at the Sawmill Grill, the garage doors where, they pop out, they pop open, and you're basically inviting the outside in. Just some more pictures here. This building, as I flip through here, what this building is, this is a precast concrete building. You'll see the different designs with the brick. You'll see the different designs with the wood. This building in 50 years will still look this good. It's more money to build, but I'm not planning on building something that doesn't look good in 30, 40, 50 years. If I'm going to invest this money to keep this golf course the way that it is in our community and people's backyards being a golf course and not a bunch of homes or streets or weeds, this is what we need to do. We've made it to where all of this outside, let me jump back to the site plan. As you can see, the event center. So right here, this is all, we will landscape all that for tournaments, for weddings, for different receptions, parties. That's what this event lawn is for. This will bring new business and new activities, and it's just going to be good for everybody all around, especially for the residents. So, in wrapping up, I want to go back to what I talked about before when I say sustainability. I know that there's a concern about the hotel. I don't see how a hotel is a concern when we have to meet all of the other commercial regulations and standards with the other building. I don't know how a hotel inhibits that. I don't know how that is not a positive. It will be used year round, and I can almost I know that I'll be a resident of Lot 23 in Blaze Loop. That's where my new house is being built. I guarantee you I will use that hotel for my own family that will come to town and they'll visit, and that's where they'll stay. And they'll use the virtual golf, and they'll use the salon, and they'll use the gym, and they'll buy stuff at the mini mart, as will the people that are on hole 4 or hole 7 or 9. This whole project sustains this golf course so that it stays. We don't need any more houses in that beautiful green area that we have. 522 homes. In Prairie Falls subdivision, we have 522 homes. 15 of those residents are pass holders. That's less than 3%. So we need this to bring the whole community together and the outsiders to come in and take part in what we're about to invest in. I'm not spending this money, I'm not investing this money to have something that looks like crap in 10 years or 5 years. Spend this money so that we set a whole new precedent for Prairie Falls Golf Course and the north side of Post Falls. I really believe in this. I'm vested in it, and I know it'll work. And I hope that City Council, that Mayor, that you guys feel the same way as I do. And again, thank you for your time.
Any questions, Mr. Clark, at this point? Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Carrie, did you have?
A quick question. How many parking spaces are you showing there?
Is it 178 parking spaces? I think it's 178, which I think the minimum was 153. Yeah, so required would be 153 stalls. We have 177 plus. So we've got plenty of parking to meet the demands there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Shannon? Not wishing to speak, but in favor is Eric Olson, Riverside Harbor. Not wishing to speak in favor is Chad Johnson. Hopefully I said that right. Wishing to speak in favor, Ryan, is it Zane? You wish to speak? I'm ready. Come on up. Name for the record, please, so we have it on file.
Ryan Zane, and address?
No, that's right. We don't need that anymore.
Well, I'll tell everybody my address is anyways. I live on Brookie Drive. I'm a resident of the golf course community. I've been a longtime resident in Post Falls, the Coeur d'Alene area. My wife was a lifetime resident. She grew up over on 14th Street when 14th Street was the edge of town. We spent some years there. It was a lovely place, and we wanted something a little bit more. We wanted a little more out of the community, and that's why we moved up to the golf course, so that she's a little closer to her neighbors, had more action and more things going on. This is the one thing that golf course has been missing the entire time. We've begged the previous owners, please put in a restaurant, please put in some more shops, please do something so we got, something that we can use without having to drive the 5 miles or something downtown to get a bucket of milk or something. We'd love something just a little bit closer where we can get together as a community. Now, I'm going to say that, and then I don't want you to discount my entire story here, because Rob and I are really, really good friends. We've known each other for a long time. We've done projects together. We've had Eagle Scouts together. We've been on campouts. It's just been a fabulous many years. And he called me up and says, hey, I think I want to do a clubhouse on this thing. And my first thought was, I don't know, that's my neighborhood. I'm not sure I want to be a part of that. And the more he talked about the vision, and the more I felt like this is really what I want to see happen in my neighborhood, the more I was on board. So I've been working with him to do some concept design work that you've seen here today. And the more we work through it, the more I understand what he's trying to do there, the more I know that this is what we need. You know, I can envision my wife and her friends on their trip around the big block, stopping by there for a bagel, you know, and a hot chocolate. I can envision my parents coming up to see me, who absolutely won't stay at my house, but they would love staying at a hotel, particularly one on the golf course. You know, I got the friend groups who like to do the golf tourism, you know, go stay someplace for 3, 4, or 5 days, hit all the golf courses. This would be exactly the kind of thing that they're looking for, and the types of things that they'd be targeting to partake in. So that's my testimony. I'm in favor of it across the board. Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
time.
In favor and wishing to speak, Kip Clark.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name's Kip Clark. I'm Rob's father. I'm probably a little biased, but I just wanted to let you know we are building a home right there at the golf course too, where the driving range used to be. In fact, we're the first lot. We'll be the closest residential home to the actual golf course and the improvements that were being made, and we're excited about that. And we're excited about the fact that we've seen a lot of our son's vision in some of the other projects that he's done. His mother and I invested and helped to get him get it started in Bell Tower Funeral Home, and we just had a tremendous experience there. And then watching him with the Sawmill Grill and the townhomes there, and his vision there. I think everything that he has been doing has been something that's been very positive and very good for the city of Post Falls. And so I know that he's dedicated to making sure that this is no exception. I do know that playing of all the golf courses in the Post Falls area, I do know that many of the pros and communicate and work well with one another. And this situation with the hotel and being able to have people come in, stay for 3 or 4 or 5 days, be able to schedule with the other courses and have that continuity between all of us, being able to have them play their courses as well will not only bring money and help support Prairie Falls, but it'll also be something that will help the other golf courses as well. And so I think overall it's something that's very positive, and I want you to know that I'm in favor of it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. No. Next up, Rochelle McKenna, in favor and wishing to speak.
For the record, my name is Rochelle McKenna. Thank you. So I actually know Rob Clark. I met him 12 plus years ago in a very unique situation. My first husband suddenly passed away, and I had 3 small children. And you don't expect that. And when I met Rob, the body got transferred to Bell Tower, and that man is incredible. The way he dealt with my children and his parents, I could not believe it. And for a business perspective, I was just amazed how it was a blessing that my husband got transferred there. So with that said, he ended up burying a couple other family members as well for me, and I got to know him through the years. I work for a $47 billion food manufacturer out of the East Coast. I run $1 million reports all day long and know the food industry quite well. So when Rob decided he he was telling me about this project. I actually lived in Crown Point a couple years ago. And one of the things that just drove me crazy living in Post Falls, I had previously lived in Hayden, Coeur d'Alene area, is there's just not enough around here. There's only a couple, there's a handful of restaurants, but you're kind of going in one big circle, not a lot of entertainment. So I always was drawn back to Coeur d'Alene, Hayden area. And, being in the industry, I've owned my own restaurant on the South Hill in Spokane, and just knowing numbers, I was amazed by this project. I said, this is what Post Falls needs. I'm looking at moving back over in this region, and this would draw me back. And I look at this project, and I automatically, I'm a number person. I crunch numbers all day long, and I look at ROI. I look at the return on the investment even for the city of Post Falls, which, you're actually bringing in revenue. The hotel is going to bring in revenue, and that's going to help schools. That's going to help your, everything for improvements for the city of Post Falls. And I also look at, I used to call on Northern Crest Casino. I was a director at Food and Beverage for Silverwood for 7 years. And all those have stay in place. I mean, the RV park at Silverwood would be booked out. Like right now, they're booked out for next season. You have the stay and play at Northern Quest Casino. You have the stay and play at Coeur d'Alene Casino. You have the stay and play at Coeur d'Alene Resort, which I was just there last weekend. And so, when I look at this, I see profitability. I see increased revenue in making this an attraction. I mean, this is going to be cool for Post Falls and actually make it an attraction where it's a destination. And it's something that's unique, which you don't have right now. And, I just look at it and I think this is great for Post Falls. And I want to move back to this area, looking for property again. And what we don't need right now is a ton of new houses. I mean, those are popping up all over the empty fields. So, I'm for it, and thank you for your time. I just wanted to share that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Neutral, wishing to speak, Howard Burns.
Howard Burns, Post Falls, Rocky Point Court. I just have a couple of questions. Maybe I don't understand them, but they haven't been discussed. Could perhaps Mr. Manley or someone explain the difference, or if that can be done quickly? So there's a development agreement that would be attached to this, but it would get zoned commercial. And I think back to one of the earlier hearings I attended when the folks at Highland Ranch Golf Course that live around it were very upset because an assisted living place was moving into a piece of property up there. And the city felt that they couldn't deny it because of the zoning. So I'd ask, if a development agreement, how binding is it for the future? I understand it's binding now, but how long does it last? And then does the zoning step in and the development agreement become moot after some point, after it's been done? Then is it just the zoning's in place? How does that work? That would be my first question. And my second question would be, is there a way you can condition this project so if you grant this, that the golf course, the actual golf course land is zoned recreational open space and is no longer R1? And I don't have answers to those. Those are questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Wilson, can we address those now, or should we take the other comments and address them at that point?
I can give you a quick answer.
Howard, you can sit down, but he's gonna address it real quick for you.
So regarding the development agreement, the way that development agreements work in Idaho, not sure that that's on.
Can you hear okay back there?
So the way it works in Idaho is a development agreement is tied to a rezone of the property. So if you've asked for a rezone and you want to add a use, the development agreement essentially works as a guarantee that you're going to do the thing that you've said. So if any of the conditions that are in the development agreement are violated, then the zoning then reverts to the pre-existing zoning. You can ask for amendments to the agreement, but that requires going back through the public hearing process. but it's binding on future owners. It runs with the land. It's part of the property until it's changed or removed at some future point through another public process. So the requirements for what they're allowed to do and the development, that stays with the property in perpetuity moving forward.
Okay. You catch that, Mr. Burns? Okay. And then the question on the zoning for the rest of the golf course, that's not pertinent at this point, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that would be a separate action or a separate decision that's not before the council at this point in time.
Okay, good, thank you. Wishing to speak, neutral, Mike Pelissero.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just listening to this, the only thing that I just kind of comes to mind is, they're talking about stay and play, a hotel, come and chase a ball around 5 acres that's that big, restaurant, shops, and so many of these things I've seen come through and we forget about kids. And I would just kind of ask that maybe if they're going to have something like this, that we don't forget about family, we don't forget about kids. So as part of whatever improvement or agreement they would have, that maybe they would set aside a small area that could be, maybe it could be gated for just people using the facility, but a playground, someplace for kids to be able to come as part of their family to enjoy time with their parents, not parents, you kids stay home, we're going to go do this and that. I think that'd be a great addition to it. And for people, like I said, if they're staying in a hotel and you got your kids with you, they have to sit in the room the whole time. So I would just maybe ask us something like that to see if it could be added to part of the whole proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Samantha, I'm going to butcher it. Stigler? I'm going to have you say it when you come up. You write very pretty, but I can't pronounce it properly, so I apologize for that.
Hi, Council. Samantha Stigleader. It's easier to say than spell. So,
Perfect. That's why I was going to
Knob
say it.
Creek. Yeah, opposition-ish. So I do have some thoughts. I did hear the proposal that was run by the Planning and Zoning Committee as well. And I don't live on the golf course, but I live right in that area. So some of my thoughts were, I appreciate, Mr. Clark, was it? You sound very passionate and like you really want to do a great job. And I really appreciate that. But this is all R1. This is all single family homes, and this is actually on top of a hill. So by building that, you block the view of Rafter Mountain, right, when you're looking south. And then when you're coming in the other direction, you actually block the view of those beautiful trees and of that cemetery. So it kind of, I don't think this is the feel of the area. I agree that Post Falls needs this. I think that it's a great idea. I feel like I have all of my family lives out of town. They all come, they stay in Coeur d'Alene, or they stay down on the west side of Post Falls, right? So more hotels, fantastic. Restaurants, well, not restaurants, right? Like, let's be really clear. It's one restaurant. This isn't going to draw people from Coeur d'Alene to live here so they can eat at one single restaurant. I think it's good. I really don't feel like that plot, it's not the feel of the area. It's R1, it's family homes, it's not big buildings. I appreciate that we're trying to make things work in Post Falls, but if they don't work, are we willing to like force them into places that they don't fit? I don't understand that argument. The good things, yeah, sounds like I agree. It sounds like a great thing for Post Falls. We could totally use all of the things that they're saying. I just don't think this is the right place. And to the stay and play comparison, those are not in the middle of a bunch of single family homes. The stay and play at Triple Play is right off of the highway. Coeur d'Alene Resort stay and play is downtown. The casino stay and play is 45 minutes northwest of Spokane. So that seems like a weird not argument, but a weird consideration to me, because this is in the middle of a bunch of people's houses. So it's not really a stay and play, it's stay and golf at one golf course. So I think that's all that I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clark, do you care to come up and rebut anything that was said?
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't ready for a rebuttal, but thank you. Was it Howard Hearn?
Burns, Mr. Burns.
Burns. That's actually something that we have talked about, and that's actually something that we're actually going to do. The golf course owns, let's see, hopefully I can get there. So if you look right here, this is where that new development has gone through. The road's right there. Here's the number 1 tee box. I own this property here too, and then over here, there's quite a bit of property that I own too. So our plan was to do some type of playground, little area that's safe for the kids, because you're on the other end of the 18th tee, you're on the other end of the green, and you're on the other end of the 9th green. So it would be a safe place for that. So that is something that I have 8 children, I have 4 grandchildren. Family is that's what I'm about, is family.
Mike was the one that was on the kids.
Okay.
Yes, but the play.
That's okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So yes, this is something that would be family oriented, and because all of my siblings all have children and grandchildren, and they'll come and they'll visit, so we'll want places for them to hang out and be and play stuff instead of being in the restaurant. In response to Samantha, I hear your concern. The reason that we push this building clear back close to the maintenance shop is for that very reason. And if you stand back and you go to those houses that are on the 10th fairway, there is no blocking of Rafter Mountain. It's going to be, it really will be no different than where the maintenance shop is right now. So as far as view, the maintenance shop is already blocking the trees going into the cemetery. We've been considerate of that, of the view of the residents in that area. And so that's why we placed the building where we've placed it. And it's 2 stories tall, not any taller than any 2-story home, residential home that's in the subdivision. So I think, and then my wife wrote down something here, Avondale Golf Course, Hayden Lake Country Club, they're both in the middle of residential neighborhoods. And they have restaurants, and they have, I don't know about any hotels, I don't think they do, but they are in the middle of residential neighborhoods, so.
Thank you.
That's it, thanks.
With that, I'll close the public hearing. Council, who'd like to start the deliberation?
Oh, well.
Go ahead, Carrie.
I, just to clarify that, Hayden Lake Country Club doesn't have a public hotel, but they have rooms for members. They have hotel rooms to rent there, but you have to be a member of the club. I think the only view blocking that would be a concern would be for the cemetery. Seriously, if you're talking about Rafter Mountain, if you're looking that way, it would just be the cemetery that would be blocked. But having gone through this, I think that it fits all of the criteria that we have set forth. And with the development agreement binding to the property, I'm very comfortable with it.
Okay. Mr. Ziegler.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm a little bit on the fence about this, just not necessarily on the merits of the project itself, but the location of it. And having said that, it's more of location of how things exist today. But it's pretty obvious that Spokane Street is going to continue to grow and be able to maintain that traffic. And I think it's a pretty natural expansion of that road to add something like this. Probably the biggest motivating factor for me to be in favor of this is to preserve the sustainability of the golf course, because we have seen what happens when, the owners of the golf course need to pay for it. So we lose driving ranges and holes along like Idaho Street and places like that. So I think overall it would be a good addition to the city.
Thank you. Mr. Borders?
I think I like the commercial aspect of the project a lot. I'm a little on the fence with the hotel side of it. One of my main concerns with that is that I would hate to see that turn into some kind of an apartment building down the road for maintenance staff or college staff that may be working at the course, those kinds of things. If there's something that we can put into some language in the development agreement somewhere that would address that maintained as a hotel and not as an apartment, I could support that.
Thank you. Mr. Shove?
My only concern with it at this point would be the traffic on Spokane Street, with that section not being, it's kind of a tight road there, but I do see that in the future that we'll be expanding that. It's going to grow, so I think over time we would adjust that, so I really don't have that many concerns. The hotel aspect is one that I kind of on the fence about as well, but I don't have enough concern to have an objection at this point. I think it's great, like Ziegler said, just to keep the golf course running and keep bringing it to where it's sustainable. So, yeah, I don't really have any major concerns at this point.
Oh,
One more quick thing that made me realize that. In the development agreement, won't that include no stays longer than a month?
So that would be added if you direct us to add that. The way it came forward, it's not included in the agreement. That was a recommendation from the Planning Commission to include that language. If you want that in the agreement, then you would make that part of your motion to include the items recommended by the Planning Commission. We would update the agreement, work on signatures, bring it back.
And that would take care of any discomfort about that becoming an apartment.
But how would you enforce that?
Me personally?
Well, but I
don't know.
mean, how would the city enforce? Yeah, we put in there that you can't stay any longer than 30 days, but who's going to watch that?
Honestly, it'd be just like any other code enforcement item that comes up in the city. If we become aware of it, you do an investigation, determine whether you can prove it or not. And if you can prove it, they're running the risk of losing the zone change and having to shut the operation down.
Let me comment. I play a lot of golf courses. In the very near future, I'm going to be playing a lot more. I love the fact that you're looking at a clubhouse. I love the fact that there will be a restaurant and bar, associated with it. I think that's critical for a successful golf course. I'm not a fan at all of the hotel, for the same reason Mr. Border stated. And yeah, we can put it in. We can limit the duration maximum, but enforcement, I think, is going to be an issue. And I'm not saying that Mr. Clark would do this, so don't take this personally. I'm not directing it at you, but you run the risk of having someone that moves into a particular unit, and if it's a 30-day max, then they go from unit 17 over to unit 14. And, so I think there is some ways to get around a maximum stay limitation, and I'm not comfortable with that. And I'm just going to be honest, I am not a fan of convenience stores in residential areas, and I'm probably in the minority, but I want to get it out there. I'm not a fan of convenience stores in residential areas. So, you put in a nice clubhouse and you put in a nice restaurant, people come and play golf and have a drink and have dinner. Are they really going to go get a quart of milk? I mean, maybe, but that could be, I guess, an advantage for some of the neighbors as well. But that is not something that appeals to me. So my concern with the whole project is the makeup of the businesses that would go into the commercial side, what they will be, and number two is the hotel, and I'm not a fan of that. But the project itself, clubhouse, et cetera, I think that's critical for a golf course, and I like it. So with that, who would like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the Angel Clark zone change RZNE.
And are you including in that adding the language from the Planning Commission?
And adding the language recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shove,
Aye.
Borders,
No.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up tonight is unfinished business, returning ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Wilson, do I need to step down on that first one, or are you going to be running it and I just not participate?
So at this point, you would just sit there and let the council president run the discussion on this one.
Gary?
Oh,
If there are questions on this item, Field is here to answer those for
I
you.
do. So we have
Item
item A under unfinished business, the North Shore District subdivision and PUD request for reconsideration. Somebody going to present on that?
So this isn't a public hearing. This is just an action item, so it'd be up for your discussion and
We're
your
going to have a
direction for the
discussion
staff.
about that.
Yeah, and so, as I said, Field is the one that's done the work on this, so he's here to answer any questions if you have questions about this matter.
Okay. And this came back, we are bringing this back. Refresh my memory.
So I could do a brief kind of
Thank you.
update. So mayor and council, abstaining. What we've received is a request for reconsideration of the council's reasoned decision that was entered back in December. And my staff report basically goes through.
Field, could you speak up a little bit, please?
Sorry about that. A little bit better? There we
Yes.
go. My staff report goes into a little bit of the history and sort of a breakdown of that request as it relates to the reasoned decision. Request for reconsideration is really just to look at whether or not there are specific deficiencies in council's reasoned decision. So if you have any other questions, I'm open for questions.
Any of the council, do you have questions?
So it's kind of a process, reconsideration of the process, not necessarily the merit of the council's decision.
That's right. So it's as you go through the code, it's sort of the last step before judicial review. In fact, it's the requirement before you take a case to the court to come back and ask for reconsideration one last time. However, the code provides, and Mr. Wilson has pulled up, that it's a request for reconsideration doesn't necessarily require an action by the council, but it has to cite the specific deficiencies that are in that decision. And so staff's analysis of that, we don't find any specific deficiencies that would lead to a different outcome. So.
And we affirmed this decision on January 4th.
So the council did consider this and affirm this. However, there was the most important letter, being the letter requesting the reconsideration, was not included in the agenda packet. And so we had to bring this back for consideration, basically, because the previous council didn't have all of the information in front of them in order to properly consider that request. They were missing the actual request for reconsideration.
And we have all since received that.
Yes, so you have all since received that along with its exhibits. I bait stamped everything to hopefully make it easier to find things, as well as included the previous council record with the reasoned decision, the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision, and the rest of the record for the most part.
Did either of you have any comments or questions?
Considering that we cannot look at other new evidence in this particular case, and we have to go on what has been submitted in the past, I believe that the subdivision and the PUD does meet the city code requirements. And some of the comments in the reconsideration dealt with technical issues that I think have to be addressed by our staff at the time of permitting and those types of things. So I think the burden now for the project falls on the shoulders of our staff to make sure that everything works. So I would move to approve the City Council reasoned decision SUBD -0001 -2021 and PUD 0001 -2021 as published on December 7th.
So just to clarify, your motion is to reject the request for reconsideration in this
Correct.
matter and to affirm the decision.
Correct.
In a second? I'll second. Is that what we're waiting for?
Yeah, and now a roll call.
Ziegler,
You're running it.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Thank you, Carrie.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's been a while.
I missed you.
Next item up tonight is under unfinished business returning ordinances and resolution is ordinance Title 17 lot line adjustment. And who is presenting on that one?
This should just be reading the ordinance. We presented this, this was coming back from the hearing at the last council
Okay.
meeting, so it should just be reading the ordinance.
I would move to place the ordinance Title 17 lot line adjustment TA-0003-2021 on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And just so you know, Carrie, I was waiting for you to call for the roll because I was on vacation a minute
Oh,
ago,
you were
so
still- yeah.
apologize. Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, amending municipal code section 17.04.030 to provide regulations of lot line adjustments, providing that remaining sections of Post Falls City Code shall remain in effect, providing for severability, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval and publication according to law.
I would move to enter, to approve the ordinance, Title 17 lot line adjustment TA-0003-2021, and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business, and we have several. The first is a professional service contract with Welsh Comer Engineers for design and construction management services for the water tower parking lot and pocket park. Mr. Melvin.
Yeah, Mayor Jacobson, City Council, Bill Melvin, City Engineer. And we have before you this evening a contract proposal with Welch Comer Engineers for design and construction management of the water tower parking lot and for continued conceptual advancement of the pocket park that's immediately adjacent to the proposed parking lot. The reason that we are including the pocket park is just because they're so integrated in there. We need to make sure the grades work, the theme is common, and the access is familiar back and forth. There additionally within the contract is some additional surveying south of the pocket park that the parks wanted to acquire so we can advance concept design south of the parking of the pocket park as it heads south towards the Spokane Street Bridge. There was some efficiency of having Welch Comer do that, so there's a small amount in this contract as well. So the project map that we have here, the area is immediately south of McReynolds on the west side of Spokane Street. You're looking north there. 2nd Avenue is the east-west road. It turns into McReynolds there. There's a small piece of property there. The water tower is immediately south of that. The project history: in 2018, the city adopted a city center parking plan. We had a study for the city center area where we established a need for additional parking, on-street parking, and parking lots within the city center area. This is one of those areas that was kind of a high heat zone for additional parking that we had in there. So, so the city center plan established the need for additional parking. The city acquired about 0.6 acres, that previous triangle piece that we were looking at on the previous slide there, for the creation of a parking lot in the southeast corner of McReynolds and Spokane Street. Additionally, we had funding that was provided last year to advance parking within the city center area, and this was chosen to be one of the prime areas. We thought we'd get more yield out of this than we would with the on-street parking. So we got, the funding was allocated in 21 for completion of the project in 22, and then subsequently we've negotiated a contract with Welsh Comer. That contract negotiation was done in concert with Parks. Robbie Quinn is here this evening if we have any questions relative to the pocket park. This here is a concept design that staff put forward for the parking lot. Real quickly, we put this in just to see what kind of a yield we might get. We wanted to compare the yield here to a yield that we might get with the on-street parking. We found this provided more yield. It's within the area of the city center, of what's going on, getting more vibrant down there. So this was chosen as one of our best uses for expenditure of dollars to advance the parking within there. Very conceptual design. Within the scope, they've got surveying to establish property corners, storm drainage, maximize the number of parking stalls we can get within that lot and still maintain safe and efficient movements. We have landscaping that we need to comply with, our own ordinances. We're going to put in conduit as well in case in the future we would like to turn this into a paid parking area. We'll have some discussions about, do we also want to put in conduits in case we need some electronic vehicle charging stations or something in the future too.
Bill, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Did I misunderstand? Did you say you're going to put in conduits in case you want to pave it in the future?
Oh, I'm sorry, in case we want to put in paid parking.
Paid, I'm sorry. I
Paid
thought you
parking.
said
Yes,
paved.
no,
and
no, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No, we're definitely paving the parking lot. Yeah, so that's the concept for that. And then, like I said, that we also then take this through final design, specifications. Their contract takes them through bidding, bidding and construction management services with the project. This is initial conceptual park design. There was one done some years ago, very, very rough and conceptual, that was done along the Spokane Street area. They are advancing the pocket park design, one, to make sure that the grades and the storm drainage and everything, the match between the parking lot and the proposed pocket park within there. The actual design work will advance the current very, very concept design to more of a more advanced preliminary design phase, in which parks could then, they would have a choice of materials. We would know that the pocket park is going to tie into the proposed water tower parking lot well. They would integrate well together. So that's why that concept design is within there. This was the very preliminary one. They would return to mayor and council with 2 additional concepts for this, an additional concept for the parking lot. And then once the staff and the committee that's working on it has come up with a final design for the parking lot, we would be bringing that back before city council concurrent kind of with the bidding phase. So currently at this stage, like I said, we've negotiated a contract with Welsh Comer for the water tower parking lot design. We have a budget line item established within there. This also includes that conceptual work of tying into the parking, or excuse me, the pocket park that's immediately below our iconic Post Falls water tower that we have down there, to make sure that those two work together. There is $1,000 also within the scope of the project that we have there. It's a totally separate line item that's coming from Parks, that is to advance that surveying, that there was really, for the area south of the pocket the pocket park. We wanted to advance the surveying because eventually that whole area will go down and tie into the Spokane Street Bridge within there. So they wanted some additional surveying, and so we can advance all that as well. So also additionally, I wanted to point out within the scope of services that you will see through there, to save dollars and be efficient on the project, our Parks Department is actually going to complete the irrigation design. They would provide that design to Welsh Comer. And as opposed to having some soils work and a geotechnical engineer come out and look at the site, city staff is going to go out there with a backhoe, dig a couple of test pits so that our engineering team and the design consultants can go out there and look at it. So we're putting forth some staff efforts and some stuff to save money and really spend it more towards getting the most yield that we can out of the project. So, and with that,
any questions, Bill?
We'll stand for any questions.
How many potential parking stalls did you get in that design?
We took a look at it, and I think we were looking initially in that 45 range, but I thought we were being a little conservative. I thought some of the radiuses were a little tight within there, and so, you know, I think if we even got into that, you know, the 30, 40 range, we'd be really happy with it. Like I said, one of the things that's one of the things Matt will be looking at. Some of the more recent parking lots that we've had maybe constructed in the area, some of the drive aisles have been a little tight, and we know that we need to expand those out. Not everybody in North Idaho is driving small vehicles, and so that affects that. So some of the things, when we actually get into those details, Welsh Comer will look at, and we want the turning radiuses and everything to be safe and efficient in there. So
thank you.
Okay.
Good.
I guess my question is,
yes,
the people that are going to be parking there, what would they be doing at this point? What is their purpose for parking? What part of town or what area are they trying to target?
We have people that are going to the Post Falls Brewery. We also have you know, people that are maybe going across the street to the Sawmill Grill. We also have some proposed developments that's coming at us real soon, some exciting stuff that's going on down there. So predominantly people that are going down and want to access that core area of the city center that we're going to. And some of this, I mean, eventually their city center parking plan has established parking on the streets. A lot of that is going to take some convert as the downtown changes and converts from strictly residential. Some of those drive approaches will go away. That'll give us more parking yield on the streets. So this should hopefully help even some of the parking issues and complaints that we get with some of the overflow businesses from the existing business that we have down there. There'll be a place that we can park down there when we have events. There was an event this summer at South Park, and a lot of people were parking and walking across the bridge, and they were parking really in kind of an unofficial area on somebody else's property.
I would imagine you'd also have access to the Centennial Trail. I mean, it's only a couple blocks away.
Yes. So as you look at also, if you looked at our original concept, one of the things you'll see is in that corner at Spokane Street and McReynolds, where it really doesn't fit for the parking lot, we're going to look at fundings and provide some additive alternates for maybe a bench and a bike rack and some things that go there as well, so that people could come, lock up a bike, and have all that access there. You're correct, Mayor.
Thank you.
I have a question.
One second.
I'm sorry.
Are you okay, Kenny?
I will have a follow-up question. So it's my understanding, and I may be wrong on this, that most of the people parking there would be crossing a street. Is that correct? And if so, would we have to put in some infrastructure to safely let the crossing happen?
At this point, we would try to just manage it with a crosswalk. You know, traffic is continuing to slow down through there. We will watch that very closely. If indeed there ended up being a need for another rapid flashing beacon, we will do that. Eventually, a block north on 3rd, there will be a traffic signal installed. We've put in a lot of the underground network for that. But predominantly at this point, it'll just be crossing, and if there seems like there's a need for it, we would put in rapid flashing beacons as we currently have at the Centennial Trail crossing. So we'll just monitor that.
Nathan.
Very good question.
Just a question about you mentioned the development that's going to be on the north side of McReynolds. Do we know parking inlet outlet for that and how it corresponds with the proposal?
There is, so we've seen some of their site plan layouts, and there is parking on the north side of McReynolds that would feed directly into that. We don't see this as being a conflict with that as far as where those drive approaches go and everything. And there's probably not going to be enough volume through there between the two, and so we think they'll be mutually beneficial through there. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And I believe that right across from the water tower, so that would be first, there's a crosswalk there.
It's second. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah, no, where the water tower is, where you would turn to go to Templin's?
Oh, yes, down there, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a crosswalk at that location. So there is one, they could go down right before the bridge and cross there, absolutely, 100% correct, thank you.
And who's going to paint the water tower?
That is probably yet to be determined, but in one of the things with the concept with it is to look at what can we do with the water tower in regards to uplighting. What can we do also for security of the water tower? We've had some instances where we've had some people calling it and stuff. So that is yet to kind of be determined who's actually going to paint it. I was through Bozeman a few years ago, and they have a water tower as you drive through this uplit, and
yeah.
it's really cool. And so hopefully we can
Sign me up on that committee, I'll be on that
Yes.
committee.
I've had some suggestions for the water tower, but we'll see what happens. So.
We're going to need a motion, but before we do, I just think it's appropriate time to inform Council President Thorson. You ask what some of the duties are. One of them is painting water towers, so.
Yes.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the professional services contract with Welsh Comer Engineers for design and construction management services for the water tower parking lot in Pocket Park.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Shove,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Next item up tonight is engineering service contract with Welsh Comer Engineers for the rehabilitation of Spokane Street from Spokane River Bridge to I-90.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Andrew Arbini, Projects Division Manager for Public Works. So, as you mentioned, I too have an agreement with Welch Comer tonight. Also, first time presenting a non-utilities project. So, tonight's presentation is on the Spokane Street rehabilitation. Essentially, removal and replacement of the existing asphalt pavement on a section of Spokane Street. So maybe should have enlarged this image a little bit, but in the hatched area is essentially the project limits. Starts from just north of the Spokane River Bridge to the I-90 eastbound ramps. Encompasses that entire area. And you'll notice that the railroad bisects this project, which is something I'll talk about in this presentation as well, as it's one of the key drivers in the timing and our approach on this project. So I was out on site this week and taking some pictures, trying to capture what the existing condition looks like and convey that here. You've probably seen this from walking along the street or in your car as you drive by. You can see the image on the left, the substantial cracking around the manhole and over by the catch basin. On the right, I tried to capture some of the utility trenches that have been dug in over the years, likely patching. And while best efforts occur to patch back when that happens, naturally over time those tend to be weak points and separation occurs. You can see the joints separating there. A couple additional photos. On the left shows pointing south towards the water tower. You can see kind of the larger extents of the issue that I was describing there. And then on the right, of course, is the train track. I'm sure most everyone is familiar with this crossing. You can see the asphalt heaving along each side of the rails. And that would, of course, the repairs around the railroad would also be included in this project. So as I mentioned, the existing condition is beyond repair. The Streets Department has continued to provide temporary patching and fixes over the years, and that's only increased. Really, the long-term solution is to remove and replace the existing asphalt pavement. This project is largely driven by the railroad permitting process, as I mentioned. So BNSF currently has a live line that bisects this project. That permitting process can be time intensive, really varies depending on what the project is and I think essentially workload. So railroad permitting and then funding availability are the two drivers in timing of this project. This agreement tonight allows us to move forward with the design and the permitting and then having the project essentially shelf ready for construction once we identify a time. The other item I wanted to mention, so we are aware, city staff is aware of multiple projects occurring in this area. Idaho Department of Transportation has indicated a project in the vicinity of I-90 and Spokane Street in the future that will be occurring around that area. Post Falls Highway District has also indicated they have a project on the Spokane River Bridge. And then as Bill presented, the parking lot project that is occurring, will be occurring starting this year. I do also want to note that a quick note on coordination. Originally, when we started scoping discussions for the Spokane Street Rehabilitation Project, we did discuss including the parking lot and the Spokane Street together in one agreement. The reason these are two different agreements, the parking lot project is currently funded, whereas only a portion of the Spokane Street is funded. So we currently have funding for the design agreement. The construction agreement, or the construction phase, is yet to be funded. So that's the reason why these are two separate agreements. So a quick overview of the financials. The base agreement is for $48,900. Staff is requesting a 10% contingency. That would be authorized by the Public Works Director for benefits to the city if identified. So total request is for $53,790. This is funded through the street's reconstruction budget, and currently there is enough budget for that total amount. And then I added a note at the bottom that this agreement tonight includes just the design and permitting process. So that's broken out in two different portions in this agreement, railroad permitting and then the design. There is an option to amend the agreement at a future date to add in the bidding and then construction management services, CMS, for the project once construction is imminent. Again, the reason for that, having an unknown construction date, that allows us to negotiate the CMS contract at a future date when we know for sure when the project would occur. Next steps, where we go from here, pending an approved agreement, Welch-Comer would move forward with the design and permitting process with the railroad. And the next step after that would be bidding and construction, and that's likely 2023. Potentially sooner, potentially later. Again, several factors to consider there. That concludes my presentation. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Arbini?
So Andrew, why did we stop at the eastbound ramp of I-90 instead of going further north to Spokane Street or to Celtice Way while we're doing the design work?
So the first note on that is the general proximity. I know that ITD has jurisdiction over a portion when you get within their area within I-90. Typically that starts and ends at the on and off ramps. My boundary may be not exactly on, but that's a general vicinity as I understand it in past projects that we've worked on with ITD.
Well, I know the pavement's deteriorated significantly underneath of the bridge, at least up to the off-ramp coming on there. And there's still some potholes even further up on Spokane Street. So I was just curious, could we save any money by, while we're doing the design process, extending that up to Saltese Way? And yeah, we don't have to pave it because we don't have the money to do it for the rest of the project at this point. But if we, while they're there and could include it for a reasonable cost, it makes sense to me to take a look at that.
Rob, do you want to comment?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. Just for clarification, the city's jurisdiction of Spokane Street ends at the eastbound ramps of I-90. ITD has control of Spokane Street from that location all the ways up to the north edge of Saltese Way. And so in that area, that would really be ITD's responsibility. We have had some staff level conversation with ITD over the past 5 years on trying to get them to go out there and do some additional maintenance. To date, we haven't had any success on that. There's also been some minor discussion about maybe pursuing a future where ITD gives the responsibility of the road back over to the city and what would be the requirements before the city would take that over. But that's a little bit further out, and that's why we can't go any further north at this time.
Thanks, Rob.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question about the repaving of that corridor. Would that include replacement of the paver or brick crosswalk areas, or would we just be going straight asphalt through there?
That is a good question. It's concrete.
It's stamped concrete? I see, okay. The only reason I'm saying that is it just seems counterintuitive for the longevity of a project like that to create another seam in the material. I mean, even when it was new, it was rough going across that. So that would be my suggestion on that.
Yeah, could that come back with the design, though? I mean, that could be
Sure,
included
yeah.
in the design.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this agreement would include all the evaluation and take into these considerations. But
Good.
noted.
Good question. Kenny?
How many years are we looking at of having that in good working order before we have to start doing the same repairs that we're doing now?
Make sure I understand your question. So,
If you repair it, how long will it be before you have to do it again?
oh, the lifespan. I think there's several factors. I know the thickness, the amount of traffic. I don't have an exact number of lifespan for that. Maybe, I don't know, Rob Paulus, would you?
I have to say 20.
20 to 30 years.
I think that's how long the bricks have been there, the faux bricks. Yeah. About 20 years.
Okay. Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the engineering services contract with Welsh Comer Engineers for the rehabilitation of Spokane Street from Spokane River Bridge to I-90.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Borders.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Next up tonight is the approval to bid project Spokane Rehabilitation, Volume 1 of 2, which I find interesting, Prairie Avenue and Spokane Street, which is Volume 2 of 2.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer, continuing your discussion along Spokane Street this evening. This city staff is looking for your approval to send this project out for bid, and then hopefully, if we get some good bids, be able to award it and construct it this year. This project is really a combination of about 4 separate projects that have been in development over the past several years. When completed, it will rehabilitate and increase the capacity of Spokane Street from Pole Line Avenue up to Prairie Avenue. It will also make improvements to Prairie Avenue between Chase Road and Spokane Street. It has a number of elements which are going to make improvements to our sewer system, both to hit existing needs as well as provide for future growth. And then it will also provide a roundabout at Prairie and Spokane intersection to improve safety and access to the neighborhood to the north. Volume 1 of 2, this started off as a grant project back in 2014. The design was actually completed for it back in 2019. This would rehabilitate Spokane Street from Pole Line Avenue to Grange Avenue. It would do some minor road widening, replace the existing surface, put in curb and gutter, sidewalk on both sides, and it would include bike lanes on both sides of the roadway. It also has water line improvements that need to be done while we're out there and working on the roadway. Volume 2, which is Prairie and Spokane, this has been under development for about 2 years now. We had a little bit of a delay as we did some additional analysis with our sewer master plan updates and incorporated elements from that. We also had the Phase 1 improvements, which were constructed at the railroad crossing of Spokane Street. That was done in the spring of 2021. This project would reconstruct Prairie Avenue as a principal arterial roadway and would put in a multi-lane roundabout at the intersection of Spokane and Prairie. Spokane Street itself would be chip sealed and restriped to be a major collector. That means it would have a 3-lane cross section from Grange Avenue up to Prairie Avenue and would also include bike lanes. To be a little bit more specific, just a conceptual drawing, the construction drawings were in your packet along with the specifications. This is looking at Prairie Avenue with its 5-lane cross section, left turn lane to get into the Crown Point subdivision, and then from the Crown Point Road to Spokane Street itself would be a center landscaped island, and then we'd have multi-use paths on both sides. At the intersection of Prairie Avenue and Spokane Street, we'd be putting in a multi-lane roundabout. Right now, there's a single-lane roundabout at Chase Road, and the Post Falls Highway District is putting in a single-lane roundabout this coming summer. Construction is actually supposed to start March 7th of this year with another single-lane roundabout. The reason we're doing a multi-lane roundabout here is that when we did the traffic analysis, we found that within less than 10 years, that the single-lane roundabout would outgrow from, or growth would cause the single-lane roundabout to no longer work appropriately, and that the multi-lane roundabout would give us at least 20 years of operation. So this was a wiser way to go. Post Falls Highway District was constrained on their roundabouts on either side, that they got safety grant money, and so all they could address was the safety elements and not necessarily the capacity needs long-term. Other elements that we're doing in this project include decommissioning 2 lift stations, the Grayling Lift Station and the Prairie Falls 2 lift station. Removal of these lift stations is in conformance with our wastewater master plan, and removing them would help reduce some of our operation and maintenance costs for the city. Also in there is the extension of a 21-inch sewer main from Spokane Street to just about to Chase Road. This is an improvement which is in line with a project that was identified in our most recent wastewater master plan update. This would be the first phase of it so that we don't update the road and then within 5 years have to come in and tear out brand new construction. In terms of how we plan on funding this project, Volume 1, which is the south piece from Pole Line Avenue up to Grange Avenue, we have identified a transportation impact fee project, which is NKN4, called Spokane Street. Also, there would be some water department money involved in the water line replacement and upgrades, and then there is a very small amount of developer cash out dollars that we would have towards that project. The northern project, which is the higher cost portion, we do have transportation impact fees from project S51, which is Spokane and Prairie. Water reclamation would be paying for the sewer improvements, including the decommissioning of the 2 lift stations. Street department would be assisting a little bit with some of the asphalt replacement in the center of the roadway and some of the chip sealing. And then we have a lot of developer cash outs that have been occurring over the last 12 years in that area, from the Crown Point subdivision, Greenside Vistas, Ruby Springs, and Jasmine Additions. Stand for any questions you might have at this time.
Question, Ms. Paulus. See none. Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome.
Entertain a motion.
I'd move for approval to bid the project Spokane Rehabilitation, Volume 1 of 2, Prairie Avenue and Spokane Street, Volume 2 of 2.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Borders,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And the last item under new business is the Millworks Phase 1A and 1B Commercial Construction Improvement Agreement. Bill?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, Bill Melvin, City Engineer again. This is a very simple, benign change. Typically, our construction improvement agreements, which are really boilerplate, run through on the consent agenda. Following approval of the construction plans and submitting the construction improvement agreement within the agenda packet, the developer and their engineers came forward to us and said, we'd like to change some of the irrigation design that they had within their plans. That reflected a small change to Appendix 8 of the construction improvement agreement, which are irrigation meters fees and irrigation meter capitalization fees. So it's a very benign change. We're asking to approve the construction improvement agreement with an updated appendix that we would insert into the plan prior to the mayor's signature on that. So, like I said, normally a consent agenda item, we just put it forward because of this change. We wanted to be clear and transparent with council of what we were doing.
Any questions, Bill, on this one? Motion? Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. I'd move to approve Millworks Phase 1A and 1B Commercial Construction Improvement Agreement as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda tonight is citizens' issues, and this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding city-related issues that are not on the agenda. If anyone wishes to speak, come forward. Seeing none? Oh, I'm sorry. Ma'am, please come forward. Name for the record, please, and we've got a timer for you here.
Hi, I'm Sherry Schofield, and I just live on the other side of the river. So I am wondering, we travel all the time on over the bridge all the time, and I just notice how much, it's just so much congestion for parking. And we have a friend who owns a business the restaurant, they park all the time in his business and stuff like that. And I was just a little concerned because I don't really know anything about what's building, because it's just been forever that nothing happening over there. And so I was concerned to see a 45 spot parking lot. I mean, is that just going to be like extra overflow? I mean, what about for the whole development there?
The development, I'm sorry, is that, I don't mean to interrupt you, is that in your questions or your comments, or do you have further? I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
so-
I have another question, but
Well, I think in answer to that, any of the development that's going to take place down on the old mill site will be required to have the required amount of parking. So this would be parking for, as we talked about earlier, parking for people who are just coming down to that area. So I guess if you want to call it overflow, it could be. For people who want to access Camellan Park, people want to access bike trails, et cetera. So that will be additional parking. But the development itself will be required to have a minimum number of parking spaces.
okay. Okay, second question is, which I was going to talk to this gentleman over here at the end. I heard something about a light at 3rd Avenue and Spokane Street right there. Why wouldn't we put a roundabout there?
I'm going to defer you to him and have you talk with him because he's going to be the expert on it for you.
Okay. And then this is like totally off what everything you guys are talking about, but 3 or 4 years ago, the lighting around Templin's was very nice and reasonable and everything. And then all of a sudden, they put up these huge, I mean, just talking about the gentleman who was talking about putting nice lights around the golf course, that was very nice. So Templin's is like daylight around there, and I don't know if does Spokane, the city of Post Falls, have any lighting regulations, because they shine into our house, and I had an intruder the other day on my property at 2 in the morning, and I could not see the intruder and find him because the parking lot lights were blinding me. And I just think it's so obnoxious.
Who's the best contact to talk about that?
Planning department.
Our planning department, and Bob Seal's back here, Laura's here. So if you just come to the city and talk to them tonight, or anyone in the planning department, they can address that for you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else? Next item up is administrative staff reports,
We have none tonight, sir.
followed by mayor and council comments. Don't have any. Carrie, thanks for running the meeting 2 weeks ago. Kenny and Nathan, it's good to have you on board, as we went longer than 12 minutes. I told you, don't get used to that short one, so we will have plenty more in the future. Council comments?
Have none.
See none. We do need an executive session.
We do.
How long?
Call it 45 minutes.
25.
I hate it when you say that.
I've heard that before.
We'll do our best to keep it a
If
little
it comes
shorter.
to me, I'm voting no, just so you know. So, gotta entertain a motion.
Okay, I would move to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications and legal options for pending in litigation and controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated, and that it lasts no longer than 45 minutes.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
The motion passed. Thank you. We'll enter executive session.
And Carrie, we need to Mayor. I don't.
Call the meeting
Kurt
back
gave
to
it to
order.
me.
Are there any motions to come forward?
I would move to approve the settlement agreement up to the amount discussed in executive session during the Highway 41 construction dispute mediation, and authorize the financial director to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shove,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And the next item is?
To adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.